Same mama?
Mama and
Same
daddy.
mom and dad.
Same
yeah,
mom and dad?
I believe
It's like
so.
the tennis
I ain't
court.
gotta help my bulldogger sister. They look like a boy. Whoever hold pussy you sucking.
Oh man.
I ain't gotta help nobody. I made it. I ain't gotta help my mama. My mama should have had her shit together before I made it.
Right.
So don't put that pressure on me, mama. It was your responsibility to raise me.
That right there is what Victoria Wood, better known as GloRilla's sister, decided Charleston White's safety was worth $3,500. She filmed it, posted it, and blasted it across the internet. And people treated it like some quick reaction clip, just another wild moment in the long chain of online beef. But here's what everyone missed while they were laughing, clipping, and sharing like it was nothing. Charleston White was already on the phone with his lawyer, moving quietly while the timeline was turning it into entertainment.
Whoever catch Charleston White recording and knock his whole ass out and take his phone, fool, I give 3,500 flat. Call my bluff. If one of y'all can catch that bitch just talking on the
This is the full breakdown, the beef, the bounty, the legal angle nobody expected, and what it means for everyone who acts like the internet has no real consequences. Before we even get into the bounty, the sister, or any of the drama, you need to understand who Charleston White really is. Because if you think he's just another online personality catching heat from a celebrity family member, you're not seeing the full picture. Charleston grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and not the version shown in street beef clips. He was raised in the suburbs, protected and surrounded by people who genuinely cared about him. His mom worked at General Motors, his grandfather owned a barbershop, and his uncles and cousins created a whole support system around him. His home was built on structure and guidance. But here's the part about Charleston's childhood that most people skip over, and it changes everything. This man spent years in hospitals from the age of 5 all the way to 12. He was rolling in and out of surgeries, starting with 2 major leg operations after he fell into a washing machine that was spinning at full speed when he was just 5. His whole lower body was damaged. Then at 7, he dealt with a homemade slingshot accident, followed by a head injury at the circus that left him going through 9 eye surgeries over the next several years. 9 operations. He eventually grew up with a prosthetic eye. He had a private tutor because he couldn't attend school regularly. His childhood wasn't playgrounds and friends, it was hospital rooms and recovery. Then, at 12, for the first time in his life, he finally completed a full school year. That small moment of normal life is where everything shifted. Not long after, he ended up in the Texas Youth Commission, which at that time was the most violent youth offender program in the state. The whole system was built by psychologists using something called positive peer culture, a structure meant for those who had committed serious violent crimes. But that wasn't him. He was a suburban kid who just got caught up in gang influence at a moment when he finally had the freedom to leave the house, finally had the mobility he never had before. And he chased the first thing that gave him identity and belonging, something his protected upbringing never prepared him for. He spent 7 years inside that program, came home at 21, and the years after that were nothing like what the system expected. He rebuilt himself into something rare, a man who understood the justice system better than many people who had never been inside it. He became a mitigation specialist, working in criminal defense to help humanize people who were facing serious charges. His job was to explain the life paths and circumstances that bring a person into a courtroom. On top of that, he built a social media platform that reached millions. He stepped into stand-up comedy, toured with Live Nation, and even ran a 52-week self-funded tour. He is locked in a Las Vegas residency. He secured a brand deal with a water company, stepped into boxing management, and created a TV show called Could Have Been Love. This is not someone who just wanders into conflict. This is a man who has spent decades studying how consequences work on every level, legally, socially, and spiritually. So when someone put a bounty on his head thinking he would either fold or just talk back on live and move on, they picked the wrong man completely. To understand how this even got here, we need to go back to where it really started. Because the spark behind this whole situation came from one podcast appearance, one comment, one take. Charleston was a guest on the Talks with AJ podcast, a smaller show out of Miami. And during the interview, the host brought up a topic that had been trending at the time. GloRilla's sister had publicly called him out, saying he made it and didn't look out for the family. So the host asked Charleston directly what he thought about that. Then Charleston said, "Same mom and dad and I ain't gotta help my bulldozer sister. Whoever Nibia you sucking, I ain't gotta help nobody. I made it. I ain't gotta help my mama. My mama should have had her soaked together before I made it right. So don't put that pressure on me, mama. It was your responsibility to raise me, not for me to grow up and take care of you." Now, before we go deeper, let's be honest about what that really was. That was a take on what people call the black tax. The idea that when someone in a black family or community becomes successful, they automatically owe support to everyone around them. Charleston pushed back on that concept, using GloRilla's family situation as a starting point to talk about responsibility, expectations, and who truly owes what to who. Was it blunt? Yes. Was it the type of comment that would make some people feel a certain way? No doubt, but it was commentary. It was not a personal shot at GloRilla as an artist. It was not aimed at Brother Rilla directly. It was not a threat. It was not him inviting conflict. It was simply an opinion shared on a podcast by a man who had just spent the first half of the interview explaining how he bought his mother a home, bought his sister a brand new car off the showroom floor, and took care of his entire family before he ever spoiled himself. If anything, he was speaking on the idea, not the people. But first, we need to talk about Victoria Wood's response. GloRilla didn't jump on a podcast. She didn't call into a show. She didn't post a slick line on social media. She didn't even drop a diss video. She went on camera and offered $3,500 to anyone willing to physically assault Charleston White, bash his face in her own words, and take his phone. We need to be very clear about what that means legally, because the internet treated it like some clout stunt. When you publicly put up money for someone else to commit violence against a specific person, that is solicitation to commit assault in many jurisdictions. And depending on the situation, it can even touch conspiracy charges. Payment does not have to happen. The person does not need to be chosen. The act of publicly offering the money with intent is the issue. And she did it on video, face visible, using her real name, on a platform connected to her identity as GloRilla's sister. That alone made the clip travel way further than an anonymous burner account ever could. The internet went wild over it. Some people laughed. Some said she was out of line. Others were actually hyped, talking about who was going to try to claim the money. Comments were everywhere. Shares were stacking up. The clip spread fast. And that virality is what made the whole thing legally worse. Because now there is no way to argue she didn't know it was public. There is no way to argue she didn't understand the weight of what she said. She watched it go viral and let it stay up. Now let's be fully honest, because this script isn't here to blindly defend Charleston White. His first public reaction was a lot. He went live with weapons visible. He compared himself to George Zimmerman. He made statements about Trayvon Martin, saying Trayvon was disobedient and deserved what happened, which offended many people deeply. Those comments drew real backlash from all sides. It was messy, it was intense, and it shifted the conversation from the bounty to the disrespect in his words. He was waving around what people were calling a sword, talking about choking people in wheelchairs, hitting women, and throwing out all kinds of wild statements. The internet split right down the middle. Some viewers thought he had completely lost control. Others thought he was running some kind of over-the-top performance. Even people who originally supported him because of the bounty situation started getting distracted by how unstable the reaction looked from the outside. And here's the truth. Some of the criticism he faced was fair. The Trayvon Martin comments had nothing to do with this situation. They were hurtful to a family that was never part of the conflict, and they crossed the line for no reason. Anyone who called him out for that was not wrong. But while the internet was locked in on the chaos, they missed what was happening behind the camera. Because while all the shouting, waving, and viral moments were happening online, Charleston was quietly building a legal case step by step. This is where things shift in a way that only someone who spent years studying the justice system could pull off. While the timeline was arguing about whether he was serious or acting, Charleston was on the phone with his agency, his attorney, and the Miami Police Department at the same time. He filed an official police report. He got a report number. The state attorney's office was notified. And from Charleston's own explanation, once investigators sat down and played Victoria Wood's video in a serious setting, once they watched her clearly describe harming a specific person and offering money for it, the reaction from law enforcement became real immediately. Then Charleston went back on camera, not to talk tough, not to escalate, not to add fuel to the beef, but to drop a message that sounded carefully crafted to double as documentation. He repeated it 4 times, slow, steady, almost like he was reading from something his lawyer approved beforehand. To anybody that's thinking about taking that $3,500, the police is now involved. One more time. The police is now involved. And again, the police is now involved. That is not someone panicking. That is someone who understands that the moment a camera turns on, everything becomes part of the record. He was making sure it was known publicly that law enforcement had been contacted, that this was no longer online drama, and that anyone thinking about trying to claim that money would not be walking into some street-level situation. It would be a criminal case waiting for them the moment they moved. They would be walking straight into a premeditated, fully documented assault charge with an active police report already in place. Charleston said it himself. "I don't know what made Funky Monkey think I wasn't going to put 911 on her." And here is where GloRilla made the move that, legally speaking, might have actually sealed her fate. After the police report was filed, after Charleston went on camera repeating that law enforcement was involved, and after it became publicly known that charges were being discussed, she posted another video. And in that new video, she confirmed the bounty was still active. No walking it back, no claiming it was a joke, no misunderstanding. She doubled down. Charleston's response was 5 words. "You just convicted yourself." And from a legal standpoint, he was not exaggerating. At that point, she no longer had the defense of saying she did not know, or she was just venting, or she was speaking out of frustration. She had already been informed that her first video crossed into criminal behavior, and instead of stepping away from it, she restated the offer publicly. That second video becomes something different in a courtroom. It is not only evidence of the initial issue, it becomes evidence of intent, evidence of willfulness, evidence that she understood the legal risk and chose to repeat the same message anyway. That is not the same conversation as someone telling a judge, "I made a poor decision in the heat of the moment." That is a harder hill to climb. Charleston made it clear he was pressing charges and planned to attend every single court date. And for anyone who believes he is bluffing, this is a man who once described himself on the Talks with AJ podcast as having been, in his own words, a snitch since childhood. He said lying felt cowardly to him. His whole brand is built on saying something and then standing on it, even when it hits his pockets. There was a time he lost 13 or 14 shows after a controversial interview. His agency had to step in and deal with the fallout. His platform took a hit. He kept moving forward anyway. He is not the type who files a police report for appearance and then quietly lets things fade away. Now let's return to that same podcast interview, because there is a detail in it that makes this entire situation feel almost poetic in a tragic way. The exact same conversation where Charleston White made his comments about GloRilla's family, the same discussion that GloRilla took as a personal attack, also included this moment. When the host asked Charleston about the black tax and whether he supports his own family, he said, "I bought my mom a house, car off the showroom floor, sister a car, cousin a car, son a car, dog. I went and bought everybody everything before I gave myself anything. I could have had mansions, and at least 2, 3. I went and gave it all to the loved ones who I appreciate. That was self-rewarded. That was like going to get a wrath." So the same man who had a bounty put on him for supposedly being anti-family loyalty is the one who openly talked about giving everything he earned to his people before keeping anything for himself. He wasn't arguing against taking care of family. He was arguing against the way that obligation gets twisted. He was pushing back on the guilt, the entitlement, the idea that someone is required to hand over their success just because others are close to them. And GloRilla, who was publicly upset about GloRilla allegedly not doing enough for the family, responded by trying to get that man physically harmed. Look at how that reads from the outside. You are mad that your successful relative is not giving you more. So you put a bounty on a man who was just breaking the idea down in conversation. And now, you might be looking at felony charges behind that decision. People are going to talk about that level of irony for a long time. But to understand why Charleston handled this the way he did, why he went the legal route, why he delivered those slow on-camera statements, why he was walking through a Starbucks in Cleveland like nothing was happening, you have to understand how his mind works. On that Talks with AJ podcast, he said something that explains the whole approach. I'm whatever I need to be to get the desired outcome. And he also said, reflecting on his childhood, I've always been an honest kid. Even if it was at my default or consequences, I would tell myself, I can't lie. Lying feels cowardly. Those two statements together explain exactly why he handled the situation the way he did, and why none of his moves were random. So, as far back as I can remember, I told the truth. So I'm a snitch. He said it like he was proudly claiming a title, and for him, he was. He didn't grow up in a household where calling the police was seen as betrayal. His mother was a foster parent. His family lived around institutions, and he spent years inside the criminal justice system, not running from it, but studying it from the inside. Most people in his position, with someone putting a bounty on their head and the internet sharing the clip nonstop, would either hide or try to match the energy online. They would go live, act wild, try to send people at each other, and follow the street logic that always pushes retaliation. Charleston took a different route. He filed a police report, then walked around downtown Cleveland the next morning wearing a $100,000 watch with no security at all. He live-streamed himself watching regular people start their day. I woke up in Miami and went to sleep in Cleveland, he said on that walk. I ain't had to work a job in about 15 years. He was calm. Not because he didn't care, but because he knew the process was already moving. He didn't need theatrics. He didn't need to escalate anything. The system he understood so well was handling it for him. Here's the bigger picture, and this is something people really need to understand because it matters beyond Charleston and GloRilla. We are now in a time where social media beef has blurred the line between entertainment and criminal activity, and a lot of people with platforms and big audiences do not understand how serious that blur has become. Putting a bounty on someone is not a joke. It is not a moment for clout. It is not content for the timeline. It is a criminal act. And the fact that it happens on Instagram, TikTok, or any other platform does not make it safer. It actually makes it easier to prosecute. It is documented. It is saved. It is shareable. It is traceable. And the same algorithm that helped push GloRilla's video across the internet is the same system that placed it right in front of a detective in Miami who said, according to Charleston, the detective's reaction was basically, because on paper, in legal language, what she described was textbook solicitation to commit assault with robbery. And this connects to something Charleston White has been saying in different forms his entire career. Consequences are real. Systems are real. And the space between what a person feels like doing and what the law sees them doing has swallowed a lot of people who never took that gap seriously. In that same podcast interview, when he was talking about criminal mitigation work, he said, you gotta go back and undo all the wrong you was taught. GloRilla was never taught that putting a bounty on someone's head for $3,500 on a public platform is a crime. Or maybe she was taught and just assumed it didn't apply to her. It applies to her. So here's where everything stands right now. Charleston White has a filed police report with the Miami Police Department. He has a report number. His attorney and his agency are fully involved. The state attorney's office has been briefed. Victoria Wood, GloRilla, made a second video after being told charges were on the table and repeated the bounty. According to Charleston's legal team, that essentially pushed her into self-incrimination. On record, Charleston says he is pressing charges. He says he is attending every court date. He says he wants to make an example, not in a street sense, but in a legal, institutional sense. What happens next? Whether charges get filed, whether it goes to trial, whether it ends in a quiet plea deal, we do not know yet. But what we do know is that this situation is not fading away the way everyday internet beef fades. Normal online drama disappears when the next viral moment comes along. It fades when the timeline finds something else to argue about. This one is different because this one is attached to a police report. And for anyone watching this thinking about doing something similar, whether it is a bounty, a threat, a so-called joke about paying someone, or a comment you think is just venting, understand this clearly. The internet remembers. Law enforcement has learned how to use the internet. And the people you target, some of them know exactly how to hand that video to the right people who actually act on it. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and I'll see you on the next one.